Hey guys, in today's video we're just going to look into adding some LED lights to my Corsair case. It's just the cheap stuff from eBay, just a big roll of RGB LEDs. I've got a controller that runs off 12 volts. It requires a barrel jack to power it, so I'm going to be making my own adapter. So I have to get that far before I can even see how it looks and do a test run. I need to power it. In order to get 12 volts to it, I've got a few different options. I think what I'm going to do is just use, this is an old 6-pin PCIe power adapter, Molex to PCIe, and I'm just going to plug this into one of the modular ports in the power supply and just use a voltmeter to see which wires I need to use. I just need a ground and 12 volt. And with this adapter, none of these wires are shorted to each other. I can't really imagine an adapter that would, but just something to look for. So, if I plug it in, none of these are going to be shorted together, because that could be awful. They're all individual wires. So I'm going to plug this in, get the voltmeter out, and figure out which ones I need to use. And then I've got a cable over here. This just has some short little sleeving runs on this cable, so I'm just going to use it to try to cover the wires, just to make it look somewhat neat. So I guess that's it for now. I'm gonna I gotta get the shroud out of the way, which means I have to unplug the front panel connectors, which isn't a big, huge deal. Might even need to pull the second graphics card to really be able to get to it. But we'll find out. It shouldn't be too bad. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so I'm pretty much at the point I'm going to power it up to check these wires to see what voltage goes where. And a good idea if you're going to be just doing things, just testing power, stuff like that, I always unplug all the hard drives if I know I'm going to be power cycling, testing things. So in this case, all I've got to do is remove these two modular cables, because all they do is power the hard drives, so it'll be fine without them. Now if you have like critical fans, or maybe you've got it going to like your pump on your water cooler or something, then don't unplug it, but in this case we'll be fine. So this is the donor cable that we will test. I'm just going to plug it in like that. I'm also going to be careful not to short anything out with my probes here. Negative 1.7. That's a no. 3.3. 5 volts. So it looks like the black wire is ground, at least on this one. None of these help us. This will be 5 and 3 volts. We'll try the same ground, I guess. It's another 5 volts. There it is. 12 volts. it's not negative. So it's the black and yellow wire, oddly enough, and it's on this connector. So shut it back down. Pull it back out, and these are the ones that we want. Oh. Okay, alright. I could just push these pins through, but I'm not really worried with all that. I don't have that exact tool on hand anyways. That'll do. It's not going to be visible anyways. So I can save these for later if I've got an older PC. They're much more likely to use Molex connectors like these, so I might need that to plug in a fan or something. So just for good measure, I'm going to try it one more time and make sure we're reading the proper voltage on this. Because no mod is worth screwing up your PC or power supply at least. I mean, they normally have short protection, but you don't want to take any chances. Okay. I'm also going to make sure these don't short. Alright, as you can see, getting 12 volts. Just gonna wait for it to post and then I'll power it down. Okay. Alright. We've got that far. I'm going to see about some sleeving, and we need to install our plug on there. Now for that, we'll have to move over to the table. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to start with is tinning the wires just to make things a little bit easier to work with. Now there's a lot that has to go on here before we actually start working with it. So I've got my sleeve, I've got the plug, the end for it, and I'm going to use heat shrink on the ends of this to make sure it doesn't fray and just fall apart. So I've got a couple short sections, heat shrink. So we'll go heat shrink. And there, alright. The other piece. Now the end. And yeah, it actually goes inside there. Sweet. Okay, so we might have just enough wire to work with there. And now we need to attach it here. So for that, I'm going to use a third hand. These are a lifesaver sometimes. You just hold something and let's go ahead and tin this. Now normally I would use a piece of heat shrink for the positive going to the center pin of this. In this case I probably won't. I just want to try it out and see how it looks. I can always make a better adapter later. I just wanted something to give it a try today. So I'll start with the negative here. Alright. And the positive side. And I'm just going to use a piece of tape to keep these two from shorting together, since I don't have heat shrink that small readily available. I'd much rather have heat shrink, but this will have to work. I generally avoid electrical tape on any project just because it kind of breaks down and just gets super sticky over time if you ever need to remove it to do additional work later. It's just kind of a nightmare to work with. Alright, that should be fine. I'm not going to worry about crimping it in there since it's got a good soldered connection. And another tool I'm missing today, my heat gun that I would normally use for heat shrink. My wife has custody of it, so I'll just have to use a lighter. Try not to stay in one place too long or burn or melt something else. That looks fine. And there's our cheap little adapter. So now we can plug it in and see how the LEDs look. Alright, so now we can plug in our plug there and here. And again, all this testing will be done with the hard drives unplugged, just so I'm not powering them up, and if something bad happens and everything shuts down, I'm just not going to put the hard drives through that kind of trauma. So this plugs in there, and the more I think about it, I may install like an inline fuse or something just in case, because this is pretty cheap stuff. We got our remote here. See how everything looks. See if we can get a color to match and all that. Okay, so on, power up the PC. All right, let there be light. There's green. It's a little brighter than the other green, but I don't know, it might be fine. And I guess that the idea would be to do just a border. Turn down the brightness some. Alright, so what I'll do here, I do know they also make LEDs that are backed with magnets. That'd probably be a lot better for this, especially this phase where you're just kind of test running everything. lot of spill kind of here where you can see them. I might play with it. I might see if I like it or not. So I'll report back if I can figure out a better way to do this. Alright, so this is a few days later. I just want to get this thing done with. What I've decided is, when I had the border all the way around, I had light here, which just doesn't really need to be lit. And then the light shines through these holes here, which are to get to the screws for mounting your PCI Express cards. So what I'm gonna do is, the plug comes out right about there. It should start, it might light up these top two holes, and I may just put, like, you know, black tape there or something. But I'm only gonna go from there across the top, because there's no real place to put it on this side. And if it goes down too far on this side, it starts shining through these. So it should be a short little strip of LEDs, but it should be just right to make it look good. So that's what I'm going to shoot for. And I think what I've decided is to use the sticky parts on the back of this, and then just go over it with another, these double-sided Scotch things, and I guess I'll just go everywhere there's exposed copper, like right here. I'll put a strip over it, because I just don't want it shorting out, but I want it to be able to connect, or to stay in place. So, alright, let's get started. Alright, try it out. What? Oh, okay. I know you won't be able to really see very well, just from the camera, but let's see. So I've got a little bit of light coming out of this top hole here, but besides that, it should be alright. So let me adjust the lights a little bit and see if I can get you guys a little bit of a view of how it looks. And of course it will flicker a little bit. Cooler Master pump, it just lights up so much. But I hope you can kind of make out how it looks. I mean, I think it looks pretty good. Just kind of a simple LED implementation. The remote should still work through the glass, and I've got the receiver inside here, so you just kind of point it in like that in an angle. Let's see, I'm dimming it down a little bit just to get a good sweet spot, but yeah, I think it looks pretty good. So I guess that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions or comments, concerns, whatever, leave me a comment. Thanks a lot.